I know, I know. I left to get cigarettes. We are back. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I'm your host, Robyn and Matt, alongside Matthew Jacobson. We want to thank everyone for making the show your first listen every day. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts. And you know what, Matthew? I'm in a really good mood today.
You're in a good
mood. For multiple reasons, right? I know, and I'll say a few of them are just extremely personal reasons. One of them was I played my first hockey game post-concussion because I've been concussion symptom free for nearly 2 weeks now. So I'm like, all right, I got a chance to play, and it just realized how much I missed it so much. So it just made me feel at peace with myself. We're I just feel like I'm kind of moving forward in my life a little bit. It might be talked about a little bit later, but I freaking, turn 27 tomorrow. Even though it makes me feel older, but like I'm just like another successful year around the earth is, around the sun is always a
happy birthday, old lady. Old.
Wow.
Old.
Hey, we still have one more day. One more day
of you not being old. At least you had a better day. I read comic books and then watched a disappointing Godzilla Netflix series and fell asleep on the floor because it was my bi-monthly time to just like I don't know if you hit it. I'll hit a certain level of exhaustion. I will get paranoid. So the second I close my eyes, my brain's like someone's standing right there. So I slept on the floor next to the dog at my sister's house.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. But I've been in a good mood lately. I think leading up to the couple days before my hockey game, I don't know, I was in a moderate mood. That's because I was missing hockey too much. But
not Coyotes hockey.
No.
12
my personal level hockey. 12 straight losses for the Arizona Coyotes. Let's talk about that first. We're going to talk about the arena situation a little bit, Matthew, because I feel like that's kind of a thing that's kind of
we promised the viewers and then disappeared for a week and a half. Look, it's gonna be like 90% arena.
This is what we do. We string people along, but we do have to at least talk about the Coyotes losing streak because you know what?
Let's kick that can to the third act. I want to talk arena. We promised arena.
Let's talk arena. Right. Yeah, it's fine. We'll talk arena.
Funny. I don't remember the exact quote. I distinctly remember it, like 2 episodes ago. One of the last couple episodes we made. Hey, tomorrow after tomorrow, we're gonna make one updating you about the arena. So much has happened between then and now. I don't even know where to start. Do you want to start like? Are we picking up after the wave of post All-Star, the teams relocating with no evidence? Are we picking up after that?
You know what? I think let's. There's a lot of things that kind of like were very just obscure and like that I didn't really pay attention to too much because I didn't really care or like it just didn't mean anything to me. Why don't we start with Old Man Sweaty?
You need to elaborate a little bit, just a little bit.
Oh yeah. Freaking Frank Saravalli.
You mean Frank Spaghetti? I felt like 80 likes shy. I literally at work the other day, like I spent 20 minutes writing a diss track. I'm still 80 likes shy. I guess I'm never gonna make that. But so we had Frank Spaghetti insist, and he was like, it's funny. The fan base broke him. This is an objective fact. So just a little bit of the TLDRs. He's like, for some reason, that February date, that was the one everyone zeroed in on as like the deadline, even though
it wasn't the deadline. Like
March
I think
14th being the last time, like for this one. Go ahead. Sorry.
Everyone thought because the All-Star game passed that all hell broke loose at that point. Even though like slow bits or progress was saying, progress is being made. Or we'll tell you when we tell you, but we're working on it. Like it wasn't like a completely silent. They broke silence at least.
Yeah, we also had a little bit of extra context, but I'll set that up in a second. So, for some reason, everyone was focusing on that February date. Like I said, my personal interpretation when it comes to getting on with the state trust was the March 14th date. Like, okay,
Oh
that's
yeah,
right at
here
the
we
end of
go.
the season.
Yeah.
My personal interpretation is that has to be the bare minimum the time that they're on that agenda. So they do end up having a meeting. And even though Frank Saravelli kept saying, "Oh no, they're not. It's not publicly on there," and then he decided to say, even after we had the positive talks and Craig Morgan was telling that story, was, "Oh, they would still need to be on like now or by this certain date," and then Craig
Oh, it's
absolutely
like
swept him.
apparently you're not familiar with how American politics works.
Arizona specifically, where Craig and look, Craig is a professional. Let's be respectful. I'm the trash talker. I'll be the one trash talking for the fan base. It's fine. But so Frank, so he says, you're assuming hard and fast rules, and in Arizona, it's not necessarily how it works. And the fact that Frank Saravelli, who quote has no dog in this race, is an exact quote from him. That reply is still up. Was replying to fans like Morello doubter and I think Nordique's hater. He literally was responding to Coyotes fans. You could tell he was upset he's spaghetti. And then, didn't he have a tweet like yesterday? I think there's
Something like
another
that.
one. Oh my goodness. Oh, he had a rant. He had a rant where he was talking about the Coyotes financials. We could talk about that in a different episode. We got too much like density to talk
Too
about this
much
one.
too much
Too
to
much
talk about
density.
in this arena Saga episode because the month of February has been oh so packed.
Stressful, positive, but stressful. So we had all that. Then after that, we're supposed to get, some sort of announcement after the Super Bowl. That never happened. Now, Elliot Friedman, to his credit, he's not a bad reporter. I think he got some things wrong with the Coyotes, but he's not a bad reporter. He brought up how that probably wasn't going to happen. Hasn't happened yet. Then we were hearing that there was supposed to be last week a meeting between Gary Bettman and Alex Morello. Then you had
Yes.
another report. I think it was also Friedman, but it's getting hard to keep track of. I think it was on 32 Thoughts that he had not yet addressed internally what was going on with the arena. Now, I can base it. I feel confident confirming that just for the conversations I've had. But it also, on one hand, made a little bit of sense to me if you had that additional meeting with Bettman coming up. We didn't really know what was going to be discussed definitively. It would make
Right.
sense to get that meeting out of the way and then talk to your people. But also, now that the meeting has allegedly happened, talk to your people, Alex. Thank you. But
Yeah. And I will say this, I feel like the majority of Coyotes employees, because there is a sect of Coyotes employees whose job is to focus on this.
And they deserve a lot better than the headspace right now. Like they do deserve better than that.
Oh, 100%. I feel like those individuals who are focusing on that, the employees are, I give them all the props. They are working their asses off to make sure this place is set, ready to go, and funded and everything. Like it's.
So now you guys should be caught up. So essentially, you had the fake freak out about the fake deadlines and the Marty Walsh. Even it's funny the amount of times I've heard, Marty Walsh being quoted about how this should have already been done. They've already missed deadlines, and literally in that exact same quote, I
No.
listened to it and read it. He says in that exact same thing. Well, they haven't really missed a deadline because there hasn't been a deadline. We'll talk about Marty Walsh in another episode. I have some stuff to talk about Mega Douche Marty Walsh, but so you had the fake freak out. You had some actual updates, some forward momentum, a meeting that did take place in that February meeting with the state trust. They were positive and quote, I could see it getting done in 3 months.
Which happened in a private executive session.
Private executive session and quote. This is Craig's sources in it. The exact quote was, "I can see this being wrapped up in 3 months." That made everyone like raise an eyebrow. And now
They're like
we have
3 months.
that date. We have that date like pretty much June. So a little bit after the 1-year anniversary of the Novo, about a year after they filed the paperwork. We also got that context back in June of last year. They filed the paperwork on this land. And there was actually, I have the exact reported, this is from Front Office Sports, the reported value of the 200 acres. They were going for 200 acres. For context, it was 46 for the TED. 200 acres was the proposal, infrastructure proposal cost for like 230 million. It was double the initial estimates. Lines up with some things I was hearing about things costing more than expected. So now it's down to 100. We do not currently know publicly what all, minus the land estimate and infrastructure stuff, was discussed, finalized, what can be reused from the old application to this one. Still a lot of stuff to be discovered, obviously, Robyn. But that's all the facts we know. We know that they did put in for this land in June. We know that there is forward momentum. A meeting did go well. It's supposed to be wrapped up. They could see it wrapped up in 3 months. And also after the March 14th date, this auction is supposed to be posted. 10 plus weeks, the auction should take place. We are caught up. We were officially caught up with everything that is known, that was known before, and putting it out there. We have to take a small break, but
because
then
there's some developments that we've heard. I feel like
that Robyn heard.
Yes,
I'm just riding a coattail. I only hear small things. Robyn goes.
I say we Locked On Collective because it's.
She wants to take out my individuality. Anyway, we do have to take a short break. And today's episode is brought to you by Camino Consulting. You've heard of our online families and couples course and taken advantage of the Locked On 25% discount running to the end of the month. But what about the live seminars? In both sports and business, the challenge in differentiating candidates and recruits is an endless battle. Everyone can demonstrate their measurables and qualifications, but we all know it is the intangibles that matter when those things are similar. Contact Camino Consulting for their team and management seminars and get a peek behind the curtain at what your next recruiting class or hiring group could be one of the most effective you've ever seen. Both because you identified the right candidates and because you've learned how to communicate and motivate them in accord with their own preferences. But you aren't in business management. Or working with a team. We pay referrals. We make some money making your workplace and your favorite teams better. Every group works better together at the end of year one than week one. So contact Camino Consulting at caminoconsulting.ca and get on the fast track to understanding. It's always the cold reads, Robyn. It's always the cold reads. It helps me. It does help me memorize it later. Legitimately, if anybody that I've done a read for, all right, giving it to me cold, I struggle the first time. I get better second, third, whatever. But I gotta do it live, or I'm not gonna remember.
Love that though. Anyways, let's continue on this show because some developments are being made, Matthew. I think past what we already know now.
Alleged developments. Well, let's put
alleged developments.
On this.
Alleged developments.
I want to set the expectations properly.
I have an anonymous source that has given me some positive info, saying this should be wrapped up pretty soon. I mean, to me, like I trust this guy. I just say. This person has been, like I said, I have like anything I've already fed you guys that have been, and I tend to be cryptic, right? You know how solid, like I have been cryptic. I never even say anything specific, really, right? Notice that. If you're following me on Twitter, I'd never say anything specific. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, let's go back to December. Remember that.
You like to get cryptic.
I do.
I like to go more for the crap posting. I like to get a little more fun with it. So I just did the Kevin Weeks tweet where it's like the city is like the Salt Lake skyline, and I was like, "Hey Yotes fam, can we add another one to the?"
So you're like the Kevin Weeks, and I'm like the.
No. Kevin Weeks doesn't actually say anything unless he's breaking a story. Other than that, he just puts eyeballs, and he's like 0 for 8, 9. Whatever it is for just the eyeball tweets. So hopefully my eyeball tweets will be a little more accurate.
Shout out to, it's funny because someone said, someone referenced Kevin Weeks and said that Kevin Weeks is 0 for 9. And then quote tweeted my tweet saying I'm shooting for 100%
So, essentially, Robyn texts me. I wake up to a very nice text. That's why I went ahead and had the little fun tweet. And obviously, without getting into big details, always protect your sources. It's interesting how much this has progressed, and even we saw just with that one meeting, and then a 3-month potential timeline of it being wrapped up. And we're talking about the land sale, and everything. Like I could say, it's just land sale from what Craig's reporting, from the understanding so far publicly. It's land sale, but if it gets wrapped up like within 3 months, that's kind of ridiculous. And I do know the state trust, they have some autonomy. I'm not entirely sure what all their power is. Again, whether all of the necessary studies and whatnot have taken place. I know at least the land estimate. We know at least the infrastructure estimate. Like, we at least know that carried over. We at least have that information.
Yeah.
But it would be really interesting if it did, get finalized in less than 3 months. And 3 months was already like eye-opening.
And I will say this. I will say, based off of the information that I've gathered from my source, that there is a reasonable amount of confidence. I'm not saying 100% because things can change. Things are always fluid, right? Nothing's 100% in this franchise, in this sport, in Arizona politics. Nothing
in Arizona at all.
In Arizona at all. But I have a reasonable amount of confidence that at the very least that we will be hearing significant progress being made, some kind of announcement this week.
Just the prospect of that. I'm not going to expect it personally. Because I will be consistent. I'm out of the prediction game. I will be consistent.
Tame your expectations. All I am saying is I have, based off of the information I've gathered, is saying that I've got enough confidence to believe I'm not saying expect the entire project to be announced this week. I'm not saying that. 100% not saying that. But I am saying expect some decent progress to be made this week.
I think that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable because, again, we also already know about the Morello-Bettman meeting that happened last
Morello
week.
Bettman
we know
meeting.
About that. What else would they be discussing? If I was a betting man, I would have said some sort of pen to paper in terms of, okay, like, we know what the timeline would be on this specific, like, this, from my understanding, like, we're late in the game. This should be the plan. Like, this is the site. This is what they have to focus on. They have to try to finalize.
And let's remember of the goal that the quote deadline that we've all discussed multiple times here on Locked On, how the PHNX show, what they've been discussing too. Q1 has always been the goal, right? And it's always been the goal. And that lines up perfectly. And I'm sure, again, that March 14th date is still on the calendar. So
yeah, that's the next big date to look forward to.
That's the next big date to look forward.
Auction is on there, like
and
the land auction being announced, like that. We have to make sure that's for me the big date to look at, and like you have to see that on there. Like, even if it's just a formality, you have to see that on there. And it does add a little bit to just for the sake of also being fair. All right. I've criticized Javier quite a bit, and I do still stand by 99% of what I said. However, now that we got the retroactive continuity, we retconned it because we finally got the information that this was filed back in June. At the very least, with how we also got the confirmation that the 200 acres they couldn't afford, so they dialed it back. When he was saying end of last year, early this year, I am now convinced he genuinely thought they were going to be able to announce it by then, and that's what happened. I'm not willing to confirm that, but I do reasonably believe that is what happened.
There was a setback probably that led it to kind of delay it a little bit.
Just to give that context and make sure we're being fair.
By the way, I had a graphic up. I mean, I had a little screenshot up that I had saved for this. Like we were doing our pre-show notes. And I wanted to just remind people because maybe some of you are forgetting the location we're talking about. If you've been living under a rock for the last several months, it's at like ever since before my first cryptic tweet.
Hey, Robyn, what's the exact address? When is the exact timeline? When will they
They will
break
not.
ground? How come you're
How,
not giving me this
no,
information, Robyn?
how could there be an exact address when it's just a completely empty, wide open desert plot of land right now? But it is owned. Mostly.
It's going for most of it, correct? Like, because
Yes.
they even Javier recently on Newsmakers Week did essentially just reconfirm. We already knew this, but just putting it back out there. They want the arena, they want the theater, they want the hotel, they want the residential, the commercial. They still want all of this. And to my knowledge, this land is zoned for most of it, but I think it's the high density specifically, or the sports complex that it needs to be like rezoned for, that goes through Phoenix. It's not a public vote.
There is a specific minor bit, something that won't keep the arena from being built. So once the things get taken care of, the arena will, at least the arena can start.
And it's right there on the 101 in Scottsdale. Thanks, Craig, for dropping that on PHNX, by the way.
Yeah, the 101 in Scottsdale. Let's remember. I think some of you guys, when I first started tweeting out back in December, were instantly kind of caught on my Desert Ridge
Oh yeah, we can say Desert Ridge now. That's right. I wasn't allowed to say Desert Ridge before.
Exactly. At least for a little bit. In December, I started saying Desert Ridge and Fire for Howling. I said Desert Ridge and the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic, as you can see, the Desert Ridge is right up in about those who are watching on YouTube, in that upper left-hand corner. You see that little marketplace, a little shopping center. That's the Desert Ridge Marketplace. Next to that, you have JW Marriott, which is part of Desert Ridge. That neighborhood's called Desert Ridge. Mayo Clinic is directly south of that. Kind of give you an idea, so you guys can map out and see other bits if you kind of want to take a look at the map yourself that are listening and not watching. You can also, it is also by the Scottsdale Princess, as well as not too far away from the current practice facility of the Ice Den Scottsdale, just along the 101 and Scottsdale Road.
I like how it has that freeway exit that's right at the edge of your circle for those who are watching. For those who are listening, it's right over there on the 101, and it's just the one exit you can see that goes to nowhere on the right-hand side if you're driving towards Desert Ridge. But it's kind of interesting how they essentially would have their own exit.
It's funny because I actually drive by that exit multiple times. I see a doctor at the Mayo Clinic for just something that I have to take care of with myself. So when I go to the Mayo Clinic, I get off at that exit and I take a look to the right hand side because I'm coming in from the east, and I'm like, yeah, God, that would look great to have an arena right there. Hey, it could happen soon.
I do understand that there are some people that weren't the biggest fan of the arena location. I'm just gonna say it now as someone who bias. It's gonna be closer to me, not as close as Glendale, but closer to me. As long as the team's still playing here, I don't care if they're playing in Buckeye, Arizona. Just as long as they're still playing in the Valley, I really don't care.
And I will say this: Arizona, the Coyotes have said multiple times they're dedicated to the East Valley. I will not consider this East Valley because it's Phoenix technically. And Scottsdale, many people in Scottsdale, even North Scottsdale, will say they're not East Valley. They are Scottsdale. That's their own thing. But it does slightly cater to East Valley more than, for a major venue rather than, Glendale did. So it's a lot easier to get up there. As we talked about this already, right? We already talked about this a few months ago.
Minus the Chandler, Gilbert, East Mesa people, obviously, it's like there is a significant number of fans that it will be not that far off from Glendale, just to make sure that we're actually like acknowledging that. However, as long as the team's still playing here, I don't care. Put them in Buckeye, put them in Buckeye, Arizona. As long as we keep the team here, I don't care. That would be a terrible idea. But after, you know what, Robyn, we're gonna ditch the Coyotes losing streak. They're on a 12-game losing streak. They're gonna get Macklin Celebrini. After this quick break, I want to talk about how this arena is going to fail, because obviously every Coyotes arena has to fail, right? We already have the ops we could talk about.
All right, we'll do that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. It's past the halfway point of the season, Coyotes fans. Regardless of where we are in the current standings, and yes, we are trending in the opposite direction of where we started, but I want to remind you that you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. Because of Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick players that you would take this week to win 100 times your money, play alongside your friends, and in groups that go beyond just NHL. You can do daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, college football, all on the app. Entries can be made in under a minute. All you got to do is pick whether or not studs like Dylan Gunther or Logan Cooley will record more or less than their Sleeper projections, like things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you could win. You can need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Coyotes fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. So stop paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details and locational availability.
All right, Robyn. All right, let's have the pessimist take over. Let's talk about how this is going to fail, because there's already opposition. I've already seen a lot of, and they have been exclusively Canadian opinions. So this is not me throwing shade. This is me being factually accurate. There's been a lot of really stupid Canadian opinions on this, exclusively Canadian opinions on this. So this arena is going to fail because there's already opposition, Robyn. So there is this group right here. It's Worker Power. It's a social welfare labor organization that spent more than $480,000 to defeat the Tempe propositions. I just want to put a side note. All right. While I personally may not be a fan of unions, they have a right to exist, and I will stand by that. They have that right to exist. It rubs me the wrong way that almost $500,000 of likely a lot of union dues were used to not get work. Were used to literally fight against.
It's interesting because you think about that, where and it's really a union that is essentially fighting because they didn't get the contract and another contractors union did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get
And then get this, Robyn. Yeah, once again, this comes from Front Office Sports, the same what I was referencing earlier with the infrastructure costs. So I had an actual number to give you. So what they want is 100% union labor on this. Now, there was some controversy back with the TED. Alex Morello, I think he was all but like one union. I think it was like this group that he was going to use a lot of union labor. He just didn't want to do 100% because he had no idea if he had enough like union workers to do it. They're pushing for 100% here, or the Coyotes, despite some really terrible reporting that couldn't do a 20-second Google search. I'm looking right at you. You know who I'm talking about. He was saying, oh, the Coyotes won't use any union. They counter with 25%. Guaranteed 25% of the total labor being union jobs. But remember, they're not going to get any union jobs. They 110% will not, Robyn. This will fail because of that. All because a special interest group that is likely wasting union members' dues to fight to not get work is now fighting to get work, even though why would Morello work with them when they spent $500,000 to not work last time, Robyn?
Be like, you tried to, you harpooned my plan to go into the perfect location in Tempe. Why would
I hire you? Like, that's just stupid. Then
when I can hire another group that's willing to do the work for me.
And also another union group as well, because there isn't just like one union group. But anyway, Robyn, there was rumblings. This was via Twitter, so obviously some asterisks. All right, take it with a grain of salt. There's some rumblings that different educators and teachers unions are going to fight this because they want the money from the sales. So let me give you some context. Governor Hobbs said she wasn't going to fast track this Coyotes land sale. Now, there's definitely some autonomy the state trust has. This is a different argument, just trying to lay down some foundation for you. About 4 or so days later, so within a week, she then was talking about, in general, allowing this process to be a little more streamlined for these state land sales as long as they benefit K-12. All right? It's on record. You can Google it yourself, do your own research on that. This is a fact. Now, that does not mean that I'm saying, oh yeah, she 100% fast tracked anything. What I'm saying is this land sale was already likely going to benefit education, you nitwits. And you wonder why the average people are starting to look at like teachers and like scoff because some of the things, like, you guys provide an excellent service, but some of you are really brain dead stupid, and it boils my blood that people that are educating our children don't understand these things that are publicly available. These are not shadowy behind the scenes stuff. It's literally, yeah, we want to benefit K-12 with these land sales, literally in plain English text. We're gonna fight against it because we're not gonna get it. You guys would likely get some, whatever percentage. I do, and then you want to fight against it, meaning you would be fighting against your own interests because you want to try to fight against the land sale because it benefits a billionaire. That billionaire is cutting the state a check.
Here's an interesting thing I want to bring up, and this is a question. It is more of a question than an answer, but no, isn't there's a thing that goes that's said when it comes to the Arizona lottery, right? That's always been said. They said it for any state lottery. What is it? What is it supposed to go towards? K through 12 education. For sports gambling to become legal, was there a bit in there as well? So there's got to be some kind of revenue of convincing people to like, yeah, let's legalize sports gambling, because they're not just going to legalize it outright, right?
Isn't that also another reason behind, off topic, obviously, not endorsing anything, wasn't that also another reason behind legalizing recreational marijuana in the state? Was more tax revenue can also go towards stuff like K-12, not 100% of it, but wasn't that also another one of the arguments that it was another way to generate revenue to benefit our schools, like we should be trying to do?
I believe so. Yeah.
Because I remember that conversation. I don't remember if it got put into the bill. It's two different arguments. I don't remember if it got put into the bill, but I do remember that being part of the conversation.
All right, let's see. I'm just reading an article back in 21 when the gambling was announced. Cronkite News. Yeah.
Yep. All right. I'll let Robyn take over. I was also we both live fact check as much as we possibly can.
Right. We do. Some of the gambling proceeds, I'm looking a little bit further into the article, go into the state's general fund, which is intended to provide flexibility to prioritize different projects. So they could say, all right, we can put it in certain areas. And I'm pretty sure in a case like this, let's say Morello Sportsbook or whatever, he puts it there and be like, yeah, there could also be an agreement too to be like, hey, some of the proceeds from here are going to go towards K through 12 education, because that's what it's going to be. If that's what it takes to fast track this thing, then I'm pretty sure they're like, I mean, yeah, if you just want proceeds to some of the money that I'm already spending to go to education, like, fine by me.
I was also trying to look at the exact proposition. The one I'm looking at right now is the 1-2-3 plan that was for like public education, because this is when she was talking about wanting to use some of these funds, like make the process a little more streamlined so you can use those funds for K through 12. So it's like, again, I don't understand. Oh, it's benefiting a billionaire. The billionaire is cutting you a check. Also, these funds, again, in part, I'm not going to make the argument it's 100%. It's never 100%, but they're also supposed to benefit schools. Meaning you'd be getting some of that money. Meaning, why are you crying? Why are you disgracing the important profession of public education, which is a ridiculously important thing for society. Just straight up, it's important to make sure our kids are properly educated. Why would you diminish that and make that profession look like a joke by not being able to comprehend basic stuff and talk? Let's fight. You sound stupid. You sound like people on Twitter, and I know you are smarter than that because you guys have master's degrees. I know you're smarter than that.
Anyone who has taken either a government class or a civics class, or in my case, when I went to the U of a reporting public affairs class where I literally go to public meetings and find out how the government works from a journalist perspective. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take that much logic to do some research to figure out
the Robyn. People can't do that. It's too doing your own research is hard. Logic is hard. I don't want to think.
It's just insane. But it is what it is. I will say this though, I'm pretty confident we'll expect something soon.
I'm also confident whatever backlash this is going to face, unless. And I brought it up as a bit of a joke, and I do appreciate a very prominent figure for referencing this. We obviously, like, unless there's like an endangered tortoise on that land, like unless there's something like that, I genuinely don't see anything being able to, as long as there is no tax like related benefits, which to my knowledge is for the land sale, there isn't. I don't know about the full development. That has not come out, but at the very least for the land sale, not to my knowledge. Unless there's like some big fat tax breaks or Morello doesn't have to pay tax for 50 years or something like that, I genuinely, with this not requiring a public vote and even the rezoning being a city council matter, not a public voting matter, and I do not see it getting stopped at that point.
And let's remember this, right? Mm-hmm. The people were always talked about the, crap about the Tempe one, the quote public money, which was the the bonds that would have taken to remediate the land. There is no land remediation.
The Coyotes would pay for the remediation. Yeah. The bond was for the infrastructure. So want to make sure we're 100% on that. You guys would have had free remediation, Tempe. Enjoy your hiked taxes whenever you guys got to clean it up within the next 5 years, jackasses. Sorry, go ahead. I want to make sure.
But since there is no remediation to be done, like this should be a simple process.
Should be, because as soon as you get the land sale and that rezoning, there isn't much like fighting that could be done past that. Things can happen. Again, if anything involves public money, yes, things can happen. I am not saying this means it's 100% happening, but if we get to that point where Morello has the land and it's properly zoned.
I know we're running a little bit over time here, but also in a joking way. Just a little bit. In a joking way here, I will also say this. Mm-hmm. That it's at that location is at least far enough that both Scottsdale and Deer Valley Airport won't make any complaints.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But then again, remember, Sky Harbor didn't even complain about the new Rising Stadium. It's supposed to go up right alongside one of its runways, but we're not going to talk about that. We're over all that. And if some of the theories I was hearing were correct, these are theories, massive grain of salt here, like a King Kong size grain of salt. City of Phoenix would be collecting tax revenue. If it's in North Phoenix, City of Phoenix won what the end goal may have been with all of that. But again, King Kong size grain of salt.
I think the most funny thing about this all though is it is Phoenix, but it's right on the border of Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna have a lot of money from Scottsdale coming in. You have a lot of corporate support. You're gonna have a lot
specifically North Scottsdale, not too far away from Paradise Valley. But you guys don't realize that's the reason why it's up there. By the way, I mentioned this earlier, but it's because that's the rich people. That's where all the rich season ticket holders are.
I can't afford to drive my 20-year-old car over there. That's how nice that air. I get weird looks from over there. especially now that I don't have a passenger window. But that's because a rock smashed into my window on the freeway. That was a fun
At least
drive home in the
when
rain.
I had my Mustang, it wasn't terrible. I just looked like one of the poorer people that lived up there rather than.
Now I look like one of those people the cops are gonna follow if I go to if I go to Scottsdale. That's how beat up my car is. I love her.
But
I love her to death. She's a West Valley car. She's not she's not a whole Valley car. Anyway, we are way over time. I wanted to make sure to give you guys everything possible. This was, we owed you guys this. I don't care if we get a talk
because we took
for a
too much
40-minute
time.
episode.
We took too much time off between my concussion and a lot of other things. Like we took a little too much time off. So a 40-minute plus episode, you guys deserve. Yeah, you guys deserve to be able to get all the info from us because you guys are probably wondering.
You guys wanted the updates, and also we promised it. We promised it. We failed to deliver on that date. Here's a big fat news update along with everything we can possibly offer. Let's see how it plays out. Hopefully this is a good week. Hopefully this is a very good week.
Hopefully it is a fantastic week.
I'm gonna hope for a good week. I'm gonna be the pessimist here. Go ahead, Robyn, take it away.
Look, it's my birthday week. I will take it.
That's why we can't have anything nice. It should be a good week. Watch, it's gonna be announced the Coyotes are moving to Winnipeg. Winnipeg's moving to Salt Lake, or is Winnipeg moving back to Atlanta? I haven't decided. We can talk about that another day.
We will definitely talk about that another day. That's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, SiriusXM, and ad-free on Amazon Music. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on X at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is at The Easy Sports Guy. Interact with us. Ask a question you might have. We might answer right back on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.